All in the hips.
So done with this. It's like ASMR. Okay, so we're gonna get started on these tie rods. I just realized I only have the inner tie rods. I called Lord Co to see if I could get some outers and I'm having trouble sourcing them, so we are going... Why am I incompetent to start with the inners today? Oh, fucking good luck! See how far we get on this side. This is probably gonna be a couple day adventure just because I work. Couple day adventure. Let's get started.
Many tic-tacs later.
Okay, so we are currently on day 3 of this inner and outer tie rod install on the Skyline. I realized when I started the other side that I didn't actually know what I mean, I never know what I'm doing, but I was missing quite a bit of information for me to do that side and film it at the same time. So I started to film it and then ended up stopping and decided to do a little bit more research, do the one side not filmed, make sure I got everything, and then film this side for you guys, showing all the steps. I realized that there's literally zero information about changing the inner and outer tie rods on an R32 Gtst. So this video is going to be a little bit more instructional, with the hopes that this can help some other people.
Emotional damage!
So as you can see here, I have already jacked up the vehicle and taken off the wheel. That is your first step. This is the outer tie rod end. I believe these ones that I have in here are OEM, but they look a little different than what I've seen online. But the inner tie rod is right there with that boot. Next, what you want to do is loosen this piece here and loosen this nut at the back while everything's attached so that you have some leverage. I don't have a wrench big enough for either of these little nuts there, so I will just be using a crescent wrench. If you are wanting to replace the inner or the outer separately, there is on mine this nut here that you have to loosen, and then one up there closer to the boot. Since I am replacing both the inner and the outer, I am not going to loosen them. I tried for the sake of this video, and the one closer to this outer rod here is very strong and too strong for my weakness, so we are just going to leave them for now. If you're strong enough to undo those, then fly at her. Next step is to remove this cotter pin here and the castle nut on top of the outer tie rod end. I believe this is a 19mm. On my boot there is some wire holding it on near the steering rack there. A lot of people use zip ties, someone used wire, so I'm just going to take that off. So now if you slide this boot all the way back, you will reveal this is the inner tie rod end here. This big long silver piece that the boot covers is the steering rack. When I did this on the other side, I thought this big long piece was the tie rod, so the tie rod is actually way down here covered by the boot, so I got super confused. So you kind of have to pull this boot back if you don't take the outer tie rod off first and reveal this part here where a wrench does fit onto. We're going to loosen that. I can't get the inner tie rod piece off. I've been trying to focus off, so eventually. So here we are, a month and a half later. Josh was able to get the other inner tie rod off of the steering rack with his macho man muscles. Then I ran into problem after problem after problem trying to source new inner tie rods for the Skyline. To start off, I had originally bought some from Lord Co. for a Z32 a long time ago now. I was trying to do the one side with the tie rods that I had and soon realized that, oh no, oh my god, there's so much to talk about. I initially thought the Z32 ones I ordered from Lord Co. were going to work, but when I put them up side by side to the old ones, I noticed that they were a lot longer than the ones that came off my vehicle. So as you can see here, this is the old inner and the outer that came off the car. These are the Moog ones I ordered from Lord Co. that were apparently Z32, but if you line them up together, you can see that like this threaded end is going to be a lot longer than this one here. I know you can't see because the outer is still on there, but when I tried to thread the new outer onto this new inner, I wasn't able to actually thread this outer part far enough down the threaded part to make it actually line up with this one. There was a lot of thread here, so this one wouldn't thread on all the way, like it stopped, you know, like it went as far as it could here. So that should have been my first indicator that these new inner tie rods were not going to work, but what I just thought I could do was just zip disc part of the threaded part off to make the tie rod shorter so that I could thread the outer part on. So that was all fine and dandy, did a little zip disc in, made a little sparks, and then when I went to put the inner part onto the steering rack, realized that the threads were completely wrong. So these Z32 ones that I got from Lord Co. do not work. Confirming right now, these ones, these Moog tie rod ends for Z32 from Lord Co. do not work for HCR 32 chassis. So from there, I had to source new ones, obviously. I got in touch with a friend at Nissan, and she is very lovely, and she told me that Nissan Canada actually cannot order in the inner tie rods for Skylines anymore. I was going to order some Z32 ones from her, but they ended up being about $250 a side, and I ain't about spending that kind of money. So then I started to look into a different vehicle that might cross over to the Skyline for parts. I had found many sources online that said the Z32 ones would work. Thought maybe that Lord Co had just sold me the wrong ones. Anyway, I tried to track down then some 240 SX ones. Could not get them through Nissan. I ended up calling Napa, and they said that they could order me some in that weren't from Western Canada. They would be 7 to 10 business days. I prepaid for them. I waited 3 weeks. They didn't come in. I called every week for 3 weeks. I still got the same answer. They weren't there. It was actually getting kind of ambiguous. Anyway, the car has literally been sitting for a month and a half because I've been trying to find these parts. I got frustrated, went back to Napa. They didn't come in. I just got my money back. So then we were back to square one. So after I got my refund from Napa, I went on to Rock Auto and ordered another set of Z32 tie rods. I thought Lord Co maybe just sold me the wrong ones. There are a lot of sources online that say Z32 ones work for the GTST. So I ordered Rock Auto ones. They came in next week. Just tried to put them in a couple days ago, and this time the threads were too short. When we put the outer tie rod end on, there wasn't quite enough thread. There was about ½ an inch of thread left, which is kind of sketchy. So then we went back to the drawing board, went to the internet, needed to find out what the heck was going on. Then I found from a whole bunch of other sources that Nissan Maxima inner tie rods work. Oh, take my hand! So I called up Lord Co. They ordered me some in. They are here today, and they work. Thread in. The threads on the tie rod are great. The outer piece goes on really nicely. There's a lot of room. So 4th time's the charm. So take this from me. I tried 2 different sets of Z32 ones. They did not work. I did not try the 240 ones. They did not come in, but I can confirm that 1993 Nissan Maxima front inner tie rods do work for the HCR 32 chassis. Learn from my mistakes because I've missed half the summer of driving my vehicle trying to find parts for this stupid thing. I'm going to try and get it back on the road next week after the alignment so I can enjoy it for a little bit more. So enough rambling. let's put the car back together. So I already did the other side off camera just to make sure that everything worked out so I didn't have to take stuff off and redo filming, etc. So as you can see, I already threaded this tie rod end into the steering rack. Next step here is to put the boot back over top. I did order a new one for this side as the old one was getting a little cracked. Massive shout out to my girl Liz over at Nissan. She helped me through this chaos by getting my parts super quickly. So thank you, Liz. I love you. On this side, I'm using this plier to seal the boot around the steering rack end. Next, put this nut on. Then the outer tie rod end, these ones I did actually order from Nissan. They are for my specific Skyline chassis. So I did measure the old ones to kind of coincide with these ones when I put them on. So it was about 13.5 inches from end to end. So I'll thread this on a little bit and then measure just so that before I get the alignment it's not totally out of whack. Another way that you could do that to make sure that when you're putting the new ones on you're not completely off before the alignment is counting how many spins to take the old outer end off. I actually couldn't even get the outer end off of my old one, so this is the method I chose to go with. Now just pop the outer end in back onto the knuckle. Have a new castle nut here and a cotter pin.
I killed it, it's murder, go crazy, berserker. I killed it, it's murder, go crazy, berserker. I killed it, it's murder, go crazy, berserker. I killed it, it's murder, go crazy, berserker.
I'm gonna tighten this a little bit, not too much because I'm probably gonna need to take it, loosen it off to adjust for the alignment. And the inner and outer tie rods are finally done. So that is it, inner and outer tie rods on my Nissan Skyline. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. Hope that you guys learned a little bit from my mistakes and you don't make the ones that I made. Hoping the alignment goes well and I can just get it back on the road again. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
Georgia, I'm